It is Sunday night. We have real baseball games to talk about, all coming up next in the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jensen, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. I am in a traveling locale here, so that's why you see a large number of books behind me that I have never read, nor do I know what they are. But Jeff, how are you this evening? We got a real baseball weekend to talk about. I'm pretty fired up about that.
I don't lie. These are all your books. Those are your books. Those are your childhood books that you just blew through when you were just a bored young teenager. And that's just, one shelf of 6. So
I would love to be that well-read, Jeff.
Yeah, I know you are, but it's okay. It's all online these days. I'm doing well. Better than my main event pitching, but that's okay. But happy Easter to everybody. We made it, and now let's roll. Lots to talk about there. I'm the pro at losing FAAB bids, and I think that's something we'll be spending a lot of time talking about tonight.
We definitely will. It was pitching was wild. Like Thursday, Friday, everybody was throwing gems, and this weekend, everybody was getting smoked. Led off by kind of a hypey, buzzy, moving up the draft. Bailey Ober got absolutely housed today.
Absolutely, against the Royals.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's disturbing a little bit too. Now he gets the Guardians, who put up a bunch of runs against Oakland this weekend, although not today. But at the same time, though, I'm still rolling with Ober, but I want to go check out. I didn't get to watch the start. I just saw the score line. And 3 homers. Yeah, not great, Bob. Not great at all. So there were some good outings today, as Uncle Ted points out. Jack Flaherty was fired today, so there is that. There's some other good ones out there too. Brady Singer on the opposite side of that Ober game, which takes away that it's not a ballpark issue. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to hurt me if Ober is bad, just like it's going to hurt me if Tanner Bybee is as bad as he was on Saturday. So, but you know what? How many times do we say don't freak out about a one outing? Don't freak out about spring training. Of course, if velocity is way down, that's a concern. But sometimes velocity is down in April, and then it gets better. So we'll watch. But this was not good. So bad.
Yeah. Like if this had to start happening in July, we'd be like, ooh, that stings, but we wouldn't even remotely think about it again. Same with like Max Fried, and there was AJ Puck, but AJ Puck's velocity was down. That's one that I like. I want to watch that second start to see kind of what we're looking at with him as a starter. But two 4-game sweeps on the road, Jeff. The Astros got swept by the Yankees. You just hate to see the Astros get swept at home. It just breaks your heart in so many different ways. And then also the Pirates sweeping the Marlins in Miami. That was a surprising one. 4-0 to start the year. Those are it's early in the season, obviously, but 4-0 sweeps are pretty big on the road.
Yeah, they are. The Pirates looking good there. I mean, just my Marlins under bet's looking pretty good so far. Pirates, they're just they can't run the bases for shit, but they're toot blanding all over the place. At least they were the first 2 games. I didn't pay close attention today, and Bednar blew a save, which is always kind of a concern. But then again, he's probably way behind because he missed a lot of time in spring training with that lat issue.
Yeah, but they came back. It was an interesting series. That I felt like the Astros Yankees here. I feel like the Astros were ahead like all the time, and the Yankees just kept coming back. They were, I don't know, showed a little bit of fight. Juan Soto looks like he's fitting in frigging beautifully well, just dealing. I think he's over 500 so far this year. Oswaldo Cabrera with 2 home runs, having a really big series. It was a big moment for the Yankees there. That was a great start to the year.
It was, and Cabrera, got the start on opening day because John Birdie was in transit to the team, and he keeps hitting. And it's like, well, you got to keep playing him. So Birdie was considered like maybe going to be the guy at least that starts a chunk of the time at third base while DJ LeMahieu's out. I think as we saw, with the trade for Birdie, that LeMahieu is going to be out for a while. They revealed a fracture and LeMahieu's foot. But OCAB was a guy that people were drafting last year eagerly in the RotoWire. I kept him last year in the RotoWire Staff Keeper League, and he flopped famously. But once a player, I think Ron Chandler is, he doesn't always talk about prospects this way, but he says once a player displays the skill, he owns it. It can come back. oh, he's just kind of a post-hype guy. I don't know if that line necessarily applies to Cabrera here, but how many times do you see a guy flop in his rookie year and then get it the next year?
Yeah, he was 29 home runs, 21 stolen bases in Double A and Triple A in 2021. I think that's when he came up in 2022. We're like, this is a speed power guy. Like, let's watch this. And then obviously he busted last year pretty badly. He hit 211 last year, and he was really rough. But yeah, great start to the year. So it's always interesting to see these teams that kind of come out hot or come out cold. Dodgers with a comeback win tonight. We're kind of thinking maybe they're going to split that series with St. Louis, and they just 3 runs in the 8th. Our boy Teoscar Hernandez, nice little weekend for the Dodgers there.
Yeah, not the best weekend though for the Dodgers. Best 8 days for the Dodgers has to be Daniel Hudson. Win
Amazing.
and a save.
Amazing.
Incredible 23rd round pick there for everybody. But cheesy, you pick up the win in the NFBC format. And then he turns out that he was my only pitcher to get a win in the main. But and the Dodgers though, I mean, even when they lose, I mean, they make you sweat. Ryan Helsley blew the save on Saturday.
Yep.
The Cardinals still won in extra innings, but still, you're never going to be able to rest against the Dodgers. I think that's one of the things.
Yeah, the pitching will be interesting, as they start to get healthy with some pitching. But I tell you what, Bobby Miller on Friday night. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I don't have FOMO. I got him in 2 of my 3 main leagues. I have FOMO in the 3rd one because I took Max Fried instead. Not a good trade off this weekend, obviously. It one start, but man, Miller looked awesome.
He sure did. We were just out with Kim on Friday night. Didn't have volume. Just out to dinner. But just seeing him mow these guys down in the 5th inning, it was incredible.
That was one of those outings you didn't need volume. You just needed a couple of eyes, and they looked nasty.
Yeah. Exactly. Freezing guys there. It was pretty awesome to see.
So before we jump into talking FAAB this week, kind of the first real FAAB of the weekend of the season. I know we had some last week, and there were some earlier drafts that had some guys available, but this is the first one we've got guys available. But looking at week 2, Jeff, we got a lot of off days this week. There's only 2 teams with 7 games. A lot of the teams are trying to do their home opener, so you get the day off sort of thing. You make sure that kind of like we have with the Mets and Brewers and the Braves and Phillies, you want to make sure with that opening day rain out possibility. But we do have 2 teams with 7 games, the White Sox and the Royals. Also 2 teams with 5 games. Milwaukee and Minnesota play a 2-game series a week, so they each have 5. Just a heads up there that there's a little bit. I think both those teams have 2-game series on the weekend, so there's a little bit of a schedule edge there of if you have White Sox and Royals, although not if you have Eloy Jimenez, because he seems to be already hurt, which I know is shocking to everybody involved. But
I know. So just a reminder too, though, we've got the dreaded 5-game series already, and that's something we're going to have to be on guard with until Major League Baseball expands to 32 teams. This is a feature, not a bug. We're always going to have that when it's 15 and 15. If it was 16 and 14, you could get away with it, but no, 15 and 15, you just can't. Yeah,
Minnesota has 3 games in the first half of the week and then 2 games on the weekend. Milwaukee has 2 this first period and 3 over the weekend is the way they work out. So just a heads up there that there are a couple of 2-game slates. If you're playing NFBC type leagues with the half weeks, it's just good to know. It's also important to know there are a couple of early games tomorrow. I think we have some home openers, so make sure you get lineups in tonight or tomorrow morning, whatever it may be. Just make sure you know there's kind of some sort of early games tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of that's an April thing too. You got to pay attention to the schedule all the way through. In fact, I'm going to go check that schedule right now. See, because there was a way. I know there was one year where we got a day game for like the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, I don't know if we're going to get that, but it's a beautiful thing. I do enjoy day baseball, working from home. I don't necessarily enjoy it setting my lineups, but it is really nice. I don't have any daily leagues so far this year though, Scott. That's one thing I'm excited about.
Nor do I, and it's kind of nice. The other day I was like, "Oh, do I need to set this?" And I realized I don't have any. But we have Braves White Sox at 11:10 Pacific, Rockies Cubs 11:20 Pacific, Pirates Nationals at 1:05. So there are 3 day games tomorrow. Just a heads up there as you're doing lineups. It's just important to know there.
Thursday, there's only 4 games. Period.
I hate that.
3 of them are day games. So that's going to be weird. And normally it kind of would line up along with like the Sweet 16 games, so that would be perfect. It's fine, but It is different there. Yes, Timothy Tunks. Jeff super stoked for Patriots Day. Always. You know me, Timothy. I may have ranted about that before, but we'll get to that one.
Wasn't there a really big Sam Fold game on Patriots Day one of those years? I remember he like homered twice before like 9 a.m. or something crazy like that.
Yeah. It was something like I still remember the Lucas Giolito game, like my season being over
that's right.
before like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Not great. We do get some good offensive schedules to talk about if you're streaming some hitters. The Rockies are at home the second half of the week. Always important to know. I'm not sure the Rockies can hit anywhere, Jeff. I think that the Rockies and White Sox might be as bad as the A's this year. They both look horrible.
Yeah, I think the Angels might descend to that level too eventually, but they're a half step above right now.
I think they'll get there, and they were at Baltimore, so I give them a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, and I actually think that like Joe Sheehan pointed this out. So I a lot of things I copy from Joe Sheehan. He's a smart human. But he was saying like their roster 7 through 20 is fine. It's just 1 through 6 isn't great. They don't have the top end talent. They don't who's their best starting pitcher? It could be Reed Detmers, who was good today.
He was good today.
Yeah.
You're right though. They have like a lot of guys that I think would be really interesting as 3s and 4s as starters. Like I like Silseth, I like Griffin Canning, I like Detmers, but none of them you're like, I'm gonna give the guy the ball on opening day when it's Patrick Sandoval out there.
Yeah. That was almost a sacrificial lamb sort of thing there. I do have some Griffin Canning. I have some Chase Silseth. I like both those guys.
Yeah.
Canning didn't look great. Again, I'm not going to overreact to one outing. Yeah. But yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people who don't look great at Baltimore, by the way.
Yeah. God, they're loaded. And they don't even have Holiday up, who homered in his Jackson Holiday. I love how he homered in his first minor league at bat there.
Yeah.
AAA at bat. Yeah. Get him up. But they're April 20th or something like that. We'll see Jackson Holiday.
Speaking of getting him up, it's hard to blame the Pirates. They were 4-0 this weekend, but Bailey Falter getting outings when Paul Skeens is getting seasoning in the minors is kind of bad too.
Is that what we're calling what Skeens is doing? Seasoning? Man,
it's the only word I can think of.
Honestly, though, I mean, I can defend Skeens. He had 6 professional innings, period.
Yeah. He's a pitcher. There's a lot of stuff to get him kind of ramped up and worked out. It's just baseball's the only sport we get this. Like you just would never see LeBron James or Kyler Murray or someone like that be the top overall pick and not playing in the majors. It's always so weird.
Hockey you might, but
do the hockey like studs not start right away?
Well, they get drafted. They go like to the OHL when they're teenagers, and so they're getting this higher level of experience. It's like the hockey equivalent of the G League. So they're getting all that. So getting drafted out of that many times. If you get it through college, it means usually that you're a little behind the game somewhat there. But although that's not always true, so some players go straight from college hockey to the NHL.
Yeah,
like they get drafted and they go right in and all that. It's kind of weird, but I'm kind of talking out of turn, so we'll move on. But that's
so. Real quick,
that's Paul Skeens that we were talking about, by the way. Just so everybody.
Some good offensive schedules. The aforementioned Orioles have a really nice setup. They are they're playing. They get Kansas City and the Pirates. All the Pirates are 4-0. I think we're still not going to be fading their pitching. Boston, the Red Sox get 3 at Oakland, 3 at the Angels. We talked about the Angels before too. That's a really nice setup too. The Braves have a good setup there. There's a lot of the good teams have good schedules this week, so not much actionable there. But the White Sox get 7 righties, so if you're kind of playing, platoons on things, that matters. The D-backs and the Nationals get 4 lefties, so just make sure you check those. There's a lot of teams out there that are platooning right now. There's a lot of guys I looked up like Edouard Julien wasn't playing against lefties early the first game.
On opening day,
yep.
That was. Do you really want that against Cole Reagans anyhow, though?
No, that's a good point. Tough lefties, you want that, but like Sal Frelick didn't play. Luis Rengifo's been sitting. Just a lot of things to check out as we get into the season. That stuff like that in June we know, but early on, you got to check those lineups because there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of figure out what teams are doing.
I was a little surprised with Rengifo, but at the same time, he got hurt right at the end of spring training, so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts seeing more playing time soon enough. But yeah, we're kind of like, oh yeah, he qualifies everywhere and plays every day. It should be fine.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Taylor Ward though, speaking of the Angels, has started out well. 2 home runs already, so I like to see that one too.
Yeah, I do too. I have Tyler Wells in a lot of plaplaces, so Taylor versus Tyler. That was kind of a bummer for me there, but at the same time, main event, Taylor Ward and Steven team 2 next to me had Wells and any other breakout Orioles starter, so I didn't get a chance to get him.
Oh, that's
so.
right. You were next to Stephen Goodwin, who was wearing the Orioles jersey and drafted like 8 of them, right?
Yeah, although I managed to get Westberg and Kauser. I think Kauser's going to be a drop soon enough, unfortunately, because just can't support the lack of playing time. Even though I think he crushes, I think he's good. But when Santander has like 8 RBI and 2 homers, and we're just waiting for an Oriole to get traded or hurt, basically Oriole outfitter to give Kauser that opportunity.
The drops is a good point, Jeff. I had a lot of trouble with drops this week. It seems like there was a lot of guys I wanted to add. A lot of guys were interesting, and guys, you got like we talked about Oswaldo Cabrera, the closers. We're going to talk about in a second. It's hard to drop guys after 4 days of the season unless they're hurt. I mean, there were a couple injuries out there that maybe made sense, or there's a pitcher that didn't make. Like I had Johnny Brito in a spot; he didn't make the rotation, so that was an easy drop. But man, especially in these 12-teamers, dropping guys after 4 days was really tough. But you got to make a move because you want to add these new guys.
And the thing is, we drafted these guys because we liked them. There's a reason why we drafted him. Now, are we really going to dislike him after 4 days unless his name is the Andrew Nardi? The Nard dog had a really tough week there.
It was
Andy is having a really bad day. I just think that was an easy drop. That was a spite drop.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the argument is they're too close to drafts. But when you have a new closer in Detroit, when you've got Ginkel available, when you've got a 95 stolen base guy potentially available in your leagues.
Yep.
Especially in the 12, you're going to have to make tough cuts anyhow. Make the play.
Someone is picking those guys up. It's not like you can wait a week. If you want to grab like you mentioned you Foley. I mean, you just got to do it now. You just have to figure it out.
Scott Pianowski says that all the time. Yep. And in the 12s, that's especially true because guess what? There's other great players that are going to get dropped by other people too. You're gonna make mistakes.
Yep.
You can always try to correct your mistake. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you drop Paul Skeens and someone else picks him up in your league. I don't know who you're talking about, Jeff, but that happens. But you got to make that decision. And you the bottom spots are there to be churned. And
on the flip side, sometimes you just need something too. I've got a couple of teams where I don't have a third baseman now because Royce Lewis got hurt. So sometimes you got to add a mediocre third baseman for a guy you liked 4 days ago. It makes it really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will make mistakes. Mistakes will be made, but inaction is the biggest mistake you can make.
Agree there. And it's really not very fun either.
No, exactly. Go get guys that emerge. You don't have. I'm not saying go spend $400 on Jason Foley. I'm not.
Right.
But get in the pool. Go swimming, and if you get them, great. At least you're out there trying and swinging at it there.
That's a really good segue into talking FAAB this week. But first, a note from our sponsors at Rival Fantasy. It's a new baseball season, and that means it's time for MLB DFS on Rival Fantasy. If you want to make every day draft day, try out Rival Fantasy's daily and weekly MLB best ball. Draft a squad for a single-day slate or entire week of games. Play the matchups and home road splits without worrying about waiver pickups or daily roster management. Drafting is your thing? Rival Fantasy has Fantasy Bingo, a salary cap free DFS game. Fill out your squad and try to complete achievements on your bingo card. Get 5 in a row or 4 in a corner to win prizes. Then there's challenges. Pick which player will score most fantasy points in head-to-head matchups. DFS has never been easier. Go to joinrival.com/rotowire or use code ROTOWIRE at sign up to get a $200 deposit match plus $25 in free entry. If you're ready to play fantasy sports made for sports fans, it's time to play on Rival Fantasy. So, Jeff, let's go hitters first. You just mentioned a 95 steal guy coming into the league. You kind of joked, but Victor Scott had 94 steals in the minors last year. 83% rostered in the NFBC main events, 56% rostered in 12. So he was available in a lot of spots, especially in the 12 teamers. What do you do with someone like this? Because if he stays up, he's an utter game changer. Like if you're short and stolen bases, the guy that can fix that himself. But Lars Nootbaar is probably coming back in about a week. Dylan Carlson is on the IL, but probably come back at some point. I think that the theory is Dylan Carlson's not very good, but he's had some good. He had one really good season early on. The Cardinals still like him. He looked good in spring. There, he was going to be the guy if he hadn't gotten hurt. What the heck do you do with Victor Scott? Because you gotta spend some money to get him. He is a complete game changer in a fantasy profile if he sticks up. But he might be in the minors in 10 days too.
He might be. He had 2 hits. Victor Scott had 2 hits Sunday at least. Those were his first 2 hits. We like seeing that. He has 1 stolen base. Scott got a stolen base on opening day.
Yep.
And so for a while he was on 162 stolen base pace there. He is not anymore, but I'm still very interested in Victor Scott because for the reason you say. I mean, he's not a zero at the plate either. His 16% strikeout percentage in the minors. Slightly better power than Estuary Ruiz in the minors. Although Ruiz was not the total zero that I and others have portrayed him to be. I do think Scott has a higher ceiling hitting wise than Ruiz.
I do too.
However, I don't think the playing time is as secure. He's on a team that can't afford to take their time. So if Victor Scott isn't hitting, he'll get sent down. Period.
Yeah.
Scott has 5 Ks and 14 at bats. That's not great. So that's something. Again, it was against the Dodgers in its 4 games. We'll see.
Right.
But here's the thing: we're not spending 10th round draft capital on Victor Scott. Maybe some people on those last mains when Dylan Carlson got hurt in spring training. I don't know what the Scott's draft price was in those last couple of mains. Maybe you saw it there. Because you did a later main than I did, but
I did. I seem to remember he was like a 19th, 20th round pick, something like that.
Yeah, that's still fine too. It's the 10th round. It's like the 10th round, 8th round. Right. The thing that we always advocated against with Billy Hamilton and Delano DeShields Jr. and Malik Smith and even Ruiz now. It's different when the acquisition cost is FAAB or a reserve pick or even a 19th, 20th round pick. I think it's a little bit more acceptable. Although I will say, 0 homers is still 0 homers, no matter how you acquire the player. That makes it a problem still. He's got to have 10 homers and then it'll be fine.
Although if he steals 70 bases, you can kind of work around that to a pretty significant margin too. Like it's just, I mean, he's got a massive upside, but yeah, it's tough. I'm looking here. He went in the 23rd round. I drafted on Monday, so maybe it wasn't fully out yet, but I think he had been named the starting center field at least for opening day at that point. But Lars Nootbaar is back this weekend.
This could all be like a waste of airtime here with Victor Scott because he could get sent down this weekend. That's why he's got to crush this week. Yeah. Otherwise, he's going down.
It's a big week for him. I drafted him in my 12-teamer on Tuesday, so I actually drafted him in that draft. So I didn't have him available anywhere, but I saw some big numbers on him. I saw a couple $100 on in a lot of spots on him.
Yeah, looking to see if he wasn't available in my main. Scott was drafted in my main. He went for 81. That's pretty reasonable in my first 12. I didn't get him. I think I bid 75. He went for 110 in my second 12. Yogurt, he was not available. And Scarf, he went for 157. And I'm missing marks left and right, by the way, in Scarf. The only pickup I've made in 2 weeks in Scarf is Daniel Hudson, who is just great. But nonetheless, I need
a save.
But the problem is I have copious holes I need to try to fill in. I just keep on missing my marks with them.
So Scott was kind of the main bat that I saw, but there was a lot of other kind of guys that look good this weekend. We mentioned Oswaldo Cabrera, outfield eligible. He's played 4 games at third base for the Yankees, though. Could be third base eligible by like the end of next week. He's obviously going to get some playing time now. Mm-hmm. Did you do anything with him? JD Davis homered twice for the A's. He was available in a lot of 12-teamers. Nick Martini. There's a lot of names out here. Who are you kind of looking at offense-wise after the kind of obvious Victor Scott top bids?
Yeah, I was looking at Cabrera. Got him in, I think, one online. I think I got him in Yogurt. That's where I got him. And I bid on him in most places. So Oswaldo Cabrera is interesting, too, because in some leagues, Cabrera was already eligible at third base. If you like in Tout Wars and XFL I play in, he had 15 games, which is enough. So OCAB I did pick up in XFL. I got outbid in Tout Wars. But the funny thing is, he was sitting there for the taking last week. We all knew DJ LeMahieu was hurt. Nobody went after him last week. It took him, which makes me kind of wary that, okay, maybe we're overreacting to one good week. Right. But man, the playing time is going to be there. LeMahieu is going to be out for a while. Birdie is going to play at some point in time. And when OCAB does struggle, are we going to call him OCAB or is that fair?
OCAB works, or unless you're thinking Orlando Cabrera, but he retired.
That's what I'm saying. There is OCAB 2, Electric Boogaloo. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could go something like that. But, but Cabrera's, he's been a prospect before. There's you don't really have to squint to see like a reason to believe. It's just last year he was just so flipping terrible.
Yeah, other bats here. Travis d'Arnaud, if you need a catcher, was kind of interesting. One. Sean Murphy has an oblique issue. Also, grade 1. It sounded like he was the the lowest grade, so it was the out. But you still got to figure
like a
he's
month
out.
though, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk about 2 or 3 weeks, but I think it'll probably be a month too. And TDA can hit. Like I think the issue with people not driving Darno is because he wasn't playing enough with Murphy there, but he was 42% rostered in the main event. I mean, I think he's probably one of the more popular ads because anybody who took a kind of a borderline second catcher, he was pretty interesting this week.
Yeah, I took even in the league where I had Bo Naylor's not playing every day. And no catcher plays every day. I know that, but Bo Naylor sat 2 of the first 3 games. I'm a little concerned about that playing time. So why not at least try to roster Darno if you can get him at a reasonable price and just use him for a month? Because in the middle of that Braves lineup, that's a good thing. We didn't get him, but we had bids on Travis Darno. I mean, he's proven that he can hit. So yeah, I had bids on him in some places, and if you waited on catchers, if you've got Rene Pinto as one of your starting catchers, you should be putting in bids on Darno for sure.
Yeah, weirdly, Gary Sanchez is not playing either. I think he has 3 at bats through the first 3 games. He pinch hit today. Like for a team that we're going to use Sanchez as a catcher and a DH, he's not playing very much either.
Dude, they have William Contreras. He was barely going to catch. So I wasn't in on the Sanchez hype. I have 0 leagues where I'm rostering Sanchez. So, and granted, I mean, many leagues you could have got him in the last 3 or 4 rounds, so that was fine. But I saw some Sanchez love out there, and
I had some of it. I thought he was going to DH a bunch, and for the power at catcher, I kind of liked it. If you got stuck without a catcher too, I added him. I have Sean Murphy in my auction league, so I added him. I added Sanchez, but for like $2, there was just nobody there. But Travis Darno was not available, unfortunately. I would have gone pretty aggressively after him. What about in Toronto, Cavan Biggio, who 2 years ago we all loved as a speed power guy and a batting average guy too. Obviously, off a couple of bad years. It's been a while since he really had that the first good rookie year in 2019. Looked pretty good this weekend. Had a hit. I think he had a home run. He kind of looked like he's playing a bunch. What did you do with Cavan Biggio with triple eligibility this week?
I think he was waterfalled in a couple places for me.
First waterfall this season. I love it.
I know. I mean, he's kind of like that lesson in that exit velocity means something. I think we all went out, we kind of, when we were vetting Cavan Biggio and drafts when he was going in the 3rd or 4th round, but look at the StatCast numbers. And we're like, you believe what you want to believe, but it was kind of displaying that he might not be that great.
Yeah.
I mean, he homered on opening day. That was nice. We'll see. He is playing. Davis Schneider is not a high bar to clear in terms of winning a job.
Yep.
I could see it. I guess I could see it. I wasn't in on it aggressively, but I could be wrong.
In Cincinnati, Jeff, opening day, Nick Martini with 2 home runs, 5 RBI. Are you buying the Nick Martini hype at all here? Hitting in the best park in the majors to hit in and starting off warm.
I want to, but I think it's more like Tuffy Martini or Kosuke Martini or something like that. But if you don't, Fukudome, you remember his 3-homer game early in April, I think that was. I think that, hey, if you can get a week where Martini gets to face 5 right-handers at home, sure, it's a good stream. But I don't think he's much more beyond that, probably. I hope I'm wrong because the Reds really kind of need someone to step up. But, the funny thing is, they faced a lefty on Saturday in Patrick Corbin. So a lot of the heroes from game 1 were sitting, which is kind of wild to see that there.
Nice win today, though. That was a nice little comeback in the 9th.
That was life-affirming comeback there.
You love facing Kyle Finnegan in the 9th. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, he got the job done on Saturday. Finnegan did, but yes. Well, and the best part too was CES was just squeezing that bat so hard for the whole series. 0 for 12 on the series, 2 strikeouts, 2 ground into double plays before that at bat, the game-winning homer. And there was just this big release of energy. It was so nice to see.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Peter, I love that. Peter saying, watch my closer. Don't do that. Dude, I watched Alexis Diaz on Saturday, and although I gotta say, Diaz got squeezed on the leadoff walk, and then after that, on the hit by pitch by Keibert Ruiz, it was just it caught one thread of my sweater basically, and that was it. Granted, he was all over the place. I'm willing to kind of give him a little bit of a pass, but it was not a good thing. Saturday was don't watch your closer day. There were so many hideous closer outings there.
I didn't watch Jose Leclerc, and it didn't help because he still was terrible.
Oh, Clerk. I mean, Helsley, gave up the rocket to Mookie and then got unlucky afterwards. Alex Lang was the worst putative closer of the weekend. He wasn't even in a save situation. Yeah. And the fact that he wasn't used on opening day was your first clue, but 3 walks, I think 17 balls, 8 strikes in his outing on Saturday. City, I think.
He's like at best the 3rd highest leverage right-hander in the bullpen. Like he's clearly behind Foley and Shelby Miller.
Oh, and it's Foley. I think Shelby just had threw so few pitches on Saturday. They gave him a second inning. He got the win. Remember, Miller didn't get a save. He just got the win because he was already pitching in a tie game. He only threw 17 pitches over 2 innings. Shelby Miller did. So, but Foley got the save again Sunday. I think the chance to get a closer for the rest of the season, I mean, you go for it there. And I know we're still talking hitters. We kind of morphed into Axel Foley talk, but that's fine.
Yeah. What about those who needed a Royce Lewis replacement? Is there anybody you like there at third base? I was in a couple spots where third base is tough. I was looking at Brett Baty. I added Tyler Freeman just because he's playing a bunch. Jared Triolo in Pittsburgh he got the job playing second base there.
JD Davis, if he's available.
JD Davis available, a good one. But it's tough. I went Freeman in one. I think I went JD Davis in one. But if you needed a Royce Lewis replacement, it was a tough spot to get it, at least until Oswaldo Cabrera. I keep calling Orlando now. Oswaldo Cabrera gets third base eligible.
Just say OCAB. It's all encompassing. I did pick up Cabrera in some leagues thinking that I'll eventually be able to use him there. Yep. I do have Baty. I already had Baty in AL Labor, I think it was, or no, it might have been somewhere else where I had him, and it's like, oh, yes, I'm using it. I'm using Baty. I had picked up, what was the other? Oh, I picked up Anthony Rendon, and had Baty on my bench this week. But it was 11 at bats versus 8, and Rendon was batting leadoff on opening day. Had to go with Rendon.
You have to go with Rendon, the nickname, because you can't use Perdon't right now after Purdue made the Final Four.
I know. Well, that was the battle of the disappointing coaches bowl there between Rick Barnes versus Matt Painter. Although I think Painter, he the last 2 years he kind of earned his rep there, but he's had some really good teams too through the years, and it's Purdue. It's not like they have a proud tradition, but this is their first Final Four in 40 years also. So it's kind of like, it's not like it's Carolina having the flopping and that, or Kentucky, better example. But yeah.
With Royce Lewis, Jeff, what do you do in terms of rostering him at the moment? You said it's a significant, severe quad injury. It sounds like they're going to reevaluate it in a month, which means we're 2 months away, probably at least. Do you answer, I guess, for a 15 and a 12? What do you do with Royce Lewis? Are you dropping him? Are you holding him? Obviously, if you took him in the 4th, 5th round, maybe the 6th if you got lucky there. Lucky in quotes again. But do you hold Royce Lewis right now?
Hold. I'm holding, but man, he's not going to run when he comes back. You know that. Yeah, that's the thing that's super frustrating is he's going to get Buxton. They're going to just put that governor switch on him.
That is a long hold getting hurt opening day, knowing you're not getting him back till June. But it's so early in the year. I held him too. I have him a 12 teamer and a 15 teamer. I held him in both spots. I kind of consider the drop in a 12 and maybe thinking that I'm probably gonna end up regretting this, but I think I'm waiting for one setback before, or one at least piece of news that maybe he's not close or something like that. I think I'm waiting, but I'm gonna hold for now. Just too good of a player for me to drop at the moment.
I've got him in Yogurt. I've got him in First Pitch Arizona, which is it's draft champion style league. Have them in what's that? Home league, and where else? I have them in 4 places, which is tough. But I'm still holding. No, I only have them in 3 leagues, but luckily I don't have them in a 12. I feel like in Yogurt I can hang on, but we'll see.
Yeah, Kelly Ugansky in the chat mentioned you don't want to be burned at third. It's early. It's ugly. I agree, man. I looked at third base like 5 times. I have Rafael Devers too in a league where I don't have a backup third baseman. He missed Friday and Saturday. He played today, which was huge. But I'm like, I don't think I want to go into weeks, having him as my only third baseman because he's got the sore shoulder issue. I need someone there that if I need to put him in for half weeks, It is.
So
It's slim pickings.
I would say, and I don't think like the third base player pool is really improving all that much. Maybe we should consider like making sure your corner is third base eligible and get ahead of it there, so you're not trying to troll the waiver wire for it.
It's a good point too. It's if you can get it that way, it is. My corner was a first base, and like I said, Tyler Freeman to the rescue.
Isaac Paredes to the rescue. Move him from, it's good that he's first and third eligible.
Yeah, those guys are nice.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough.
Let's talk some pitcher fab, because that's where a lot of the spending was this week. But first, note from our sponsor at Vivid Seats. Finally, baseball is back. This MLB season, knock it out of the park with Vivid Seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, every eye-popping play of your favorite team, live and in person. Plus, with the Vivid Seats rewards, you earn rewards with every single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit towards your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. And here's a pro reward tip. When buying tickets for your whole group, split the bill and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2024 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for all terms and conditions. So, Jeff, we want to talk closers, but let's talk starters real quick. I didn't think there were a ton of guys. It's interesting, though, because there are some two-step guys that, guys that didn't pitch the first 3 days or 3 or 4 games of the weekend, getting 2 starts this week. But the big name was Jared Jones in Pittsburgh. He was mostly rostered, but he was 79% rostered in the NFBC RotoWire 12-team online championship. So available in 20% of those leagues. Do you see Jared Jones as someone, if he was available in your league, you just kind of go as big as you can on and hope this is a breakout, because he looked really good in his first
10 strikeouts. Yeah. Heck yeah. I'm going for that. That 10 strikeouts in your first major league start. Yeah. That's something I'm interested in.
Yeah. He looked nasty. He's 22, but he looked really good.
Yeah. If you happen to have, Jared Jones available, you got to go aggressively for sure. I wish I had him in more leagues. Clay Link was all over him. When Clay Link talks, I listen. He's the EF Hunt in there. I mean, I'm totally all over that there. Yeah, absolutely. Clay, yeah. I wish I had more Jared Jones. I got him in labor last week because he had made a roster, I think, at that point. So we were able to bid on him last week. Whereas in the NFBC, we weren't if he had not been drafted. Yeah,
so he looked really, he had 15% swinging strike rate in AAA last year and 40% AA. Like that's, it looks legit and it looks legit right now. So he was the one that, if he was available, that was one that I was going strong on. Is there anybody else you really liked? I guess we could talk about Garrett Crochet, who you and I talked about a couple podcasts ago, but he was available in about a third of the 12 teamers, but still pretty rostered, taking all the 15s. In 15s, Kyle Gibson gets 2 starts this week. Alec Marsh, Emerson Hancock, who's replacing Brian Wu, is kind of an interesting name. Did you have any starters you really wanted to grab this week?
Well, Hancock is interesting. Former first round pick. Fastball hasn't been great in the past, and that's the one thing that's kind of always holding him back a little bit. Is it's just not totally dominant. But talk about a good setup at least. Yep. Hopefully Hancock has some signature starts, and we can kind of rock him on the. Thank you. That was a beautiful one. It. But
that one was actually pretty good. I give you credit for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But of course I didn't get him. Again, the main event, man, this happens every year and I don't learn.
Did he go high? Did he go high in your main event? Because I actually overbid for him and got him in mine. I was like 20.
He went 38 mine.
Oh, he was like 23 in mine, and the backup was $3. So I felt like maybe I was the only one who liked him, but I do. I mean, you mentioned the 6th overall pick. He had a nice swinging strike rate in the minors last year. Had a lot of strikeouts, too many walks, but someone with a bit of a punch out arm. I kind of and like you said, really good setup, replacing Wu. You got to figure Wu's out
for a month.
Yeah, Wu's out a month. Like I think it's a really good spot for to try and find a starter, and he gets 2 starts this week, which is never a horrible way to drop in.
And
so hard.
It's getting harder and harder to stream. I mean, I think that's one of the big takeaways. It's hard to find an attractive target to stream in these.
And he's Cleveland and at Milwaukee, like not the greatest starts, but not ones that scare you really either. Like that's a. I mean, I'm using him this week.
Yeah, you should. And I missed my mark there. Ben Brown was picked up. And he must have been drafted and dropped or something because, he was, he hasn't made his major league debut. So Liss actually picked him up. Dusty Wagner picked him up for Liss because Liss doesn't do his own fab. He's starting a cottage industry. Gordon Gecko doesn't do his own fab now either. So Look for that to become a trend. It'll be like the proxy services for the Survivor contest there.
That's
you start
right.
to have FAAB services. I think it's just a brilliant business idea. Let's go for it there. But Ben Brown, control is a problem for him. Controlling and command, but he's replacing Justin Steele.
Yep.
That one hurt a lot. That cut deep on me, but that's another guy to watch for a little bit. That he might be good. He's on a good enough team. That's something worth paying attention to. And he'll probably be available in most leagues.
Brown did pitch yesterday, by the way.
Oh, he pitched yesterday. Then never mind.
He pitched inning and 2/3 and gave up 6 earned runs.
Oh, well then. Why did I not notice that? I'm an idiot. Yeah.
I'll admit I had to look it up while you were talking. So
sorry, listening audience.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. He went $16 unopposed in our league, and assuming that Brown eventually will start, although maybe it's Assad and Drew Smiley, I guess, instead. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's kind of up in the air if he's going to start, but obviously, someone that if he's going to start, you probably want to grab and see what happens. But yeah,
there's only a website that had that sort of information.
I have it up on my screen, Jeff. It has Assad Tuesday and Drew Smiley on Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought Brown would start, but maybe after that outing, it's like, nah, you're probably not ready. So
yeah,
Piamps was dropped by the List Dusty team too, and Piamps got the save today, but that's only because Uribe had pitched the first 2 days.
That's an interesting drop. I mean, he clearly looked like they lined up Uribe the first 2 games to start or to close, but that's an interesting drop. That's a little spicy there.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk closers, Jeff. We had a year last year. We didn't have a lot of closers emerge during the year. We're kind of always waiting for it. Didn't happen. We had a lot in week 1. We've got Paul Sewald went on the IL kind of after drafts last weekend. So Kevin Ginkel was available in 40% of main events coming to this weekend. A lot of 12-teamers too. And then we got the Tiger situation. Both Jason Foley and Shelby Miller. You mentioned that we're pretty much think that Foley is the guy with the job right now. Miller more of a high leverage guy, but Alex Lang clearly third in line there. They were both under 30% rostered. The Blue Jays, Jordan Romano went in the IL. We've got some Chad Green and Yimi Garcia, but I think Foley and Ginkel were the 2 guys. There were some big bids on these 2 guys this weekend. What did you do? How aggressive were you? What do you think about these guys kind of moving forward?
Was not aggressive enough. In the my main, he went for 283 with a second place bid at 239. I think I boldly told Shu to nudge that bid up to 115. So oops, not even close on that. Foley, I did get in one of my onlines for 137, which was nice.
All right.
In Yogurt, I got Foley for 103. So it's kind of funny. Like sometimes the 12s are bigger than the 15s. In my second 12, Foley went for 221. So it just shows it can be all over the place. And Scarf, he went for 179. I was the 137.
That's not a bad bid there. He went for 240 and 350 in my 2 main events. Like I had some bids in the mid ones, and I thought they were fairly aggressive, and they were not even close.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at Foley too, because honestly, he looked. It was he had his moments last year.
Yep.
Foley did. I saw some of Foley's outing on opening day, and he looked good. He looked really good. 2 outs, 2 Ks, which is we like that. So that's also pretty good. It's a chance to be on a team that probably their wins are going to be closer. They're not a dominant team, but they're going to probably have 30, you'll probably have 35 save chances there. That could be just earth shattering to get that in week 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you don't know what's going to happen, but you get him in week 1, you get him for the whole season. And that matters. I think with Ginkel, the theory is he's really good and he's the guy right now, but the theory is that Sewald will come back in 4 to 6 weeks and probably take that job back. You never know, but you got to think very likely takes that job back.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But he could have a setback,
Yeah, for sure.
Pitchers have oblique setbacks all the time. It's not as bad as the super blister, although sometimes it is, but it is something that can happen there. Ginkel has proven his viability too. That's the other thing.
He was really good last year, which matters.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks didn't have any save chances over the weekend, which might have kept Ginkel's price down below below Foley. That and the fact that Foley has a chance for have it all season. But yeah, I have Seawald in some places, so it's important for me to at least be aggressive on Ginkel, make someone really go big on it.
Right.
But yeah, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks most likely.
Yeah, and that's like you said, you could have a setback, but Foley's interesting. I mean, super command guy, but not a lot of strikeouts. But when you watch him pitch, you're like, this guy's probably pretty tough to hit. But does not get a lot of swing and miss. He was a 7% strikeout guy, swinging strike rate last year. That is really, really low for someone you want to close games.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that is a concern. And then what about Uribe? What did you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that from the quotes we saw in the preseason, it was like, Uribe is our guy, but like in 2 years or in next year. Like it was very clear that he was not their guy, at least from the quotes from Pat Murphy when after Devin Williams got hurt. But I mean, they like lined it up directly for him the first 2 days. Like it was Megill in the 7th, Piamps in the 8th, and then Uribe in the 9th. It wasn't like a weird thing where they had a tie game and they used somebody, whatever it was. Like they really lined up Uribe to be the guy. It was really interesting usage.
It was, and Uribe had a terrible spring too, is the funny thing. Although 9 strikeouts and 8 1/3, I kind of think you got to discount any sort of spring training, ERA hit lines. Just especially in Arizona, I feel like you really have to discount it. But Uribe did give up the homer to Alonso on Saturday.
Yeah,
but then he did get he did convert him. I think he needs to work on his secondary pitches. Obviously, he throws really freaking hard, and that's good. But
he walks the house though. Like that is going to be as we go along
last year. Yeah.
If we go along in the season, I mean, in the minors, he never had a walk rate under 14%, something like that. I think it's 13% in rookie ball, but that will catch up to you as a closer in the majors. And his stuff is nasty. The swing strike rate is good. He strikes out a ton of guys, but if you're going to walk that many guys, you're going to run into a lot of hiccups in the majors. And that was my one thing with him. He wasn't available any place I was bidding. He was about 80% rostered in 12 teamers. It was a lot. I mean, once Williams got hurt, he was getting drafted everywhere as one of the 3 guys that could get the job. But
for sure,
he certainly has a significant upside on a team that the closer's not coming back for 3 months minimum.
Yeah, and as we saw this weekend, they're not a bad team.
Yeah,
the Brewers are swept the Mets. Piamps getting the save over Megill was interesting. Although Megill had pitched, I think, back-to-back games, and someone was pointing out that who Megill faced in the 7th inning was like the heart of the Mets order. So I did see Megill dropped in some places, both Megills actually, and Scarf. We saw the double Megill drop.
Tylor Megill has some shoulder issues, so that is not surprising.
Yeah, that's a runaway, run for the hills sort of thing there.
I feel like Foley and Ginkel are more established in the role right now. I know Uribe got those 2, but I think there's going to be more movement in that Milwaukee pen and probably pretty quick.
Yeah, that's right. A couple other guys, one hitter, one pitcher. I wanted to talk about. These aren't relievers here now. We're talking just a couple. Sure. Matt Waldron and his amazing knuckleball. I think it's a 2-start week this week. Shu and I picked him up. Found a way to drop the Nard dog. Hey, if he's the new R.A. Dickey, possible, probably unlikely, but it's still worth it. Taking a chance on a team that pitches in a great ballpark there. Waldron gets Cardinals at home and then at the Giants this week. Yeah, that's a start. We'll roll with it
for sure.
And number 3 hitter Jesse Winker for the Washington Nationals. There's a couple of those. If you paid attention this weekend, you saw some guys in some interesting spots.
I thought both the 2 for me that jumped out there were Mark Canha hitting 4th in Detroit and JJ Bleday in Oakland hitting 2nd. Yeah. Playing a good center field too. He had a really good catch. I think he had a catch over the wall on Jose Ramirez that robbed a home run. I think JJ Bleday actually can play a little bit. I liked him last year when they started to use him a bunch. And I think he got hurt or whatever it was. But Bleday was the guy for me that, like, as I looked at the lineups, I'm like, he's hitting 2nd. The A's are horrible, but you give me someone hitting 2nd, playing every day. I think Bleday is mildly interesting in that kind of same realm as the Winker ad.
Yeah. And then Steven points out Jared Walsh took a break from 90210 and went for 244 in one of his mains. Walsh had like 3 rockets this weekend, like 3 like huge batted ball event. Does he
have a job when Nate Lowe comes back?
I don't know, but the Rangers are one of those teams. Bochy seems to find a way to make it work that a player gets like 5 games a week or 4 games a week.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. And
by the way, Texas can hit too.
Yeah, they can. Yes, they can.
love watching Corey Seager play baseball. I love watching him hit.
Yeah, I love Semien and Seager at the top of that lineup.
Yeah.
And Adolis Garcia picking up where he left off, and he's hitting rockets. I mean, they're a fun team to watch. Just don't want to have your pitchers going against them.
Yeah, they are a fun squad. So let's jump into a few news and notes before we jump out of here. But first, a note from our sponsors at Home Run Forecast. Can certain weather conditions lead to more home runs? The atmosphere can affect how far a baseball can fly by up to 20%. Home Run Forecast measures the weather conditions at a ballpark to tell us if the atmosphere is good or bad for ball flight during a game. An index value that rates the air is created for each game in ballpark and is displayed on a scale from 1 to 10. Home Run Forecast premium site offers index values by the hour for each game, 24-hour forecast, wind direction, and speed, and even whether the roof will be open at certain stadiums. Home Run Forecast is offering a special for the start of baseball season. You can get access to the premium site for the entire season for only $28. A savings of nearly 30%. Go to homerunforecast.com/rotowire now to sign up. So, Jeff, we kind of hit some of the major injuries already. Obviously, Royce Lewis was the big one on opening day. That was tough. Justin Steele, you mentioned grade 1 hamstring strain, out a month, pretty easily a hold there. Nobody's dropping him out a month. Sean Murphy, the grade 1 oblique sprain. Those are the big ones. We mentioned Eloy Jimenez. He left early with left adductor tightness. It's funny. We talked about Royce Lewis and kind of always the same thing. Same with Eloy, man. This guy just can't stay healthy. It's bumming me out. He was the quintessential. Someone came up to me and said, "Oh, great value pick where I got him." And I knew I was in trouble.
Death.
I knew I was in trouble.
This always says that's the kiss of death when someone says great value. It sucks. It sucks to see that there. The White Sox, you're already looking at some malaise on this franchise. I mean, you looked at it; it was coming into the season. I think the new management is making some smart moves, but it's going to be a while before they're good again, like years. And Eloy, this is a big walk year for him, so to see him go down like this is pretty devastating for him too. I only have him I think I have him in one league that I got him back in November, XFL, and I'm rebuilding on that league, so. Sucks that I can't flip him anytime soon, but at the same time, I'm glad I avoided that elsewhere. Probably because he's UT only. I mean, that's the thing. It was going to be a while before he ever gained any position eligibility, too.
Yeah, and by a while, I think you mean maybe might mean never. I don't think he's going to.
I was thinking 2027, maybe first base.
We talked about closers earlier. We didn't mention Boston, but Kenley Jansen was unavailable Saturday due to back tightness. It seems like there's a lot going on with Jansen right now. It feels like spring training was kind of a lot of this. I wonder if at some point we may not see some Chris Martin closing games for Boston at some point this year.
Yeah, or Winkowski too. They had, the Red Sox really kind of went through a lot of their bullpen on Saturday, that extra inning game. Joely Rodriguez blew that save in the 10th inning on Saturday night. Was it Justin Slayton that got the save today, and he threw like 2 innings to do it. Yeah, I think Martin's the guy eventually you want to look at there. I think Martin's just a really good pitcher, and the only almost to the point where they want to still do the high leverage thing with him because he's that good. That's the only drawback for Chris Martin.
Jeff, we had a question in the chat. Do you think Casey Mize is good for a 2-start week? I actually don't think Mize is going to start twice this week. We had Olsen, Mize, and Skubal going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I think they'll still stick with Maeda, Flaherty, and then Reese Olson on Sunday. So I think Mize is only going to go once. But as a pickup anyway, I kind of like that. I mean, Mize looked good in spring training. He won the job over Matt Manning, and Sawyer Gibson Long was throwing really hard. So I think that as a former, obviously, gigantic prospect, I'm mildly interested in seeing what Mize does this week.
Yeah, he gets at Pittsburgh and home against Minnesota in week 3, where he would get the two-stepper there. Yeah, I mean, the pedigree's there. The strikeouts haven't been there in the past. Now he worked hard, and he's changed a lot of things, but kind of need to see it a little bit there. But I mean, it's still not a bad 1-start week at the Mets. I mean, I think the only concern you have with both Olsen and Mize is how deep are they going to go into the game?
Yeah. I'm definitely using Reese Olson this week at the Mets and then home against the mighty A's. So that's what I'm definitely throwing, hoping he gets 5 in the first start. But man, that's you like those 2 starts right there.
Yep, for sure.
Bichette was scratched with neck spasms today. Nothing you'd love to see, but I think that it sounded like he's not going to be a long-term thing. Alek Thomas had actually probably started pretty well for Arizona. Speaking of teams that are bad, man, murdered the Rockies this week. And I know the Rockies got one of those 4 games, but I mean, you looked up and it was 13 runs in the 3rd inning. That first game, you're just like, oh my gosh,
Kyle Freeland. No homers in that bunch. They had one in the 1st inning, but that 10-run inning or the 14-run inning or whatever it was, they were all just hits. Just hits and hits and hits and hits. And Alek Thomas is a guy that kind of retooled his swing a little bit in the offseason. Again, another post type guy, and great, can really fly in the outfield. Hate to see it when that happens like that. But yeah, take away from his biggest strength is mobility. That's tough.
Yeah, agreed there. You hope that he's okay, but hamstring tightness, you never love to see, especially a guy like you mentioned that relies on his legs a bunch. Mitch Garver sat the whole weekend with back spasms, but it's definitely one to watch, especially someone who makes
given his history.
Yeah, his history and catching some games too if he does, and so that's concerning there. You mentioned Tylor Megill earlier. Tenderness his right shoulder, having an MRI. I think that fair to say that if you had him in a deeper league, that's a pretty easy drop right there. Our Reds, Jeff, Nick Lodolo targeting an April 10th debut. On that note, what do you think about Hunter Green's first start? I know it got a little bumpy late, but I thought he looked pretty good early on.
He did, and he got squeezed a little bit. The home plate umpiring that day was not good for both teams, but like positive and negative. Like strikes were called balls, balls were called strikes. It was a weird game. And the defense behind Hunter Green was pretty bad in center field. Unfortunately, that's a sneaky thing about the injury to TJ Friedel is the Reds don't have a true center fielder right now. They're faking it with like Will Benson and Stuart Fairchild. And it was Fairchild on Saturday. Failed to come in on a ball well enough, and Ellie had to try to make a play. It didn't work, or Fairchild didn't come off. Later on a ball that was hit and it landed for a hit in front of him. He didn't throw home. Now, granted, it was CJ Abrams, but it was one of those plays where, at the very least, it merited a throw home or throw hard to the cutoff man. I think he forgot how the situation there or something like that.
Yeah, that's always frustrating. You got your pitcher going, but actually, there was some stuff with Green that I did really like.
In 7 Ks, yeah. So they're still there. Yeah.
You mentioned CJ Abrams as you're telling that story. Do you get to any point in the season yet where you're like, maybe I regret not having this guy on my team? Because I don't have any CJ Abrams, and the 3 stolen base game followed by the home run leading off today. I was like, I don't know if I'm of how good I'm feeling about this one.
It was either yesterday or after that first at bat today that I got that FOMO feeling there.
Yeah.
And I see Siege over there smiling because he took him at the sitting in. He was drafting in the 1 spot and he was all over CJ Abrams. Some smart people are in on him. It was one that I kind of punted the decision. I guess you could say I was fading because I didn't take him, but I thought I wasn't like stridently fading him. It was more so like I don't know, icy blue, blah, blah, blah. I think I got led astray by that.
I was fading. I was curious about his. I don't love his hit tool, although the second half was better. He had a pretty good, much higher barrel rate in the second half. So, I'm a little. I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO there.
He could put up first round numbers this year. There's no doubt he could.
The stolen base numbers could be massive.
Yeah, they could be. Now he was facing the Reds. I will say that in Great American.
Yep.
Gets the Pirates it's in DC and then against the Phillies this week, so it'll be some interesting things there. I'm just looking at like some of the disaster outings out there. Earlier in the pod, someone asked in the chat which disaster outing concerns you the most. Is it Bailey Ober? Is it for me? Kenta Maeda is one. I have a lot of exposure to Kenta Maeda, and his velocity was down. That's something that's a concern.
Mine was probably AJ Puck, just kind of same reasons. Like velocity was down. He's someone who's had injuries in the past. He's moving from reliever to starter. You're like, what are we gonna see here? His next start, I think he gets the Angels this week. It's a big start for AJ Puck. If he looks good and it looks like he did in the spring, I think we're back to normal. But another bad one, I'd be like, this could be a problem pretty quick.
Yeah. Do you have any concern about Fried or Nola? Both were terrible on Saturday.
I don't. I think that I know more than I did before with Nola. I think we always kind of get the home runs with him. I don't know if you watched the Max Fried game. He was terrible, but there was a two pitch.
That pitch.
The pitch to Castellanos to end the inning.
God. Middle.
It was like almost middle. Like it was a little up, but like pretty much middle.
One of the worst.
An absurd miss. Yeah.
Yeah. He threw 43 pitches in the first inning. He had to get pulled.
He did. No, I'm not worried there as long as Max Fried's healthy, and he was that pitch middle was 98, so like the velocity was there. I'm pretty good with that. I mean, I'm gonna need to see more out of that. I mean, obviously, I want to see a good outing, but I'm not really worried there. Couple questions in the chat, Jeff. Would you drop Wilson Contreras for first week hot streak Luis Campusano? I would not either.
Am I the rogue drafter? No, I am not. So thus, I would not do that.
The rogue drafter looks pretty good with Luis Campusano in the 6th round. Really good weekend to back up his good Korea outing too.
Yeah, and I like Campusano. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
But I'm not dropping Contreras. And if I'm wrong about that at the end of the year, hey, I'll own it. But no, I think I wouldn't do that.
Jeff, one of the things that bugs me more in fantasy sports than anything is when I have someone bolded on my sheet as a target and I did not draft him. So we talked about the FOMO guys like that didn't want and now they're doing well. But man, Lourdes Gurriel is someone that I liked a lot at the price. Didn't get him, and we're playing in the main event like there's a 15 team league. You can only takes 30 guys. Like I get it, you can't get everybody, but man, he looked great this first week. 3 home runs already, 8 RBIs, hitting 462 through the first weekend here. Gurriel,
but he was gettable too.
He was gettable. That's
the frustrating thing. That's not a draft position miss. Yeah.
That's just needing something else at that spot or taking someone else. But yeah, it's just he looks really good. He's just so freaking solid. I just love watching. I like watching him hit. I think he's changed who he is, and now he's a little more launch angle, a little more pop, and he had the 24 homers last year, but all comes usually with a pretty good batting average. He hit 261 last year, but 291 the year before. He looked great this weekend.
He did. Teoscar looked great this weekend. There's a few of those guys where like Teoscar costs you something at least. Gurriel was not free, but he was cheap.
I think he was like 12th, 13th round. There's I can visualize my sheet. There were like 3 outfielders I had in that range that I had bolded, and I probably just chose the other ones
or something.
Yeah. But the Diamondbacks look pretty good. Like I know the Dodgers are obviously elite in that division, but Arizona looks like they went to the World Series last year, but I don't. There's no flash in the pan right now with that team. They look really good. Like, granted, they're playing the Rockies who are horrible, but Brandon Pfaadt looked good today. If they get the pitching, Zach Gallen didn't look great, but if they get the pitching, that offense is really fun.
They got Montgomery. I mean, they hit with
right.
They got the most targeted pickup they possibly could have. And especially once they keep in mind they had already lost Erod for a month probably. So that it was imperative to go out and get somebody else. Any team in baseball could have offered that contract. I don't know how many others offered the same deal to Montgomery. I heard there were multiple. He was choosing among multiple teams, but I mean, our Reds, Scott, should have been offering that. I hope they did at least try.
Yeah,
but because that the Orioles should have been offering that to Montgomery. The Red Sox, we've talked about the Red Sox already, but all these teams.
I don't want that, Jeff. I want Whitlock and Tanner Houck starting every 5th day. Let's not mess with that.
Yeah, well, hey, I drafted Houck as well in the main, and we're eagerly awaiting his debut.
Whitlock looked good.
Oh, yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He looked really good. Cutter Crawford looked really good over the weekend too.
Yeah. Speaking of hypey buzzy guys, he got to the point where I couldn't even get him. He was going to say Pavetta looked good too. You're right.
Yeah. Hey, who did they face? Oh, the Mariners. Oh, all those. Yeah, all of them. Mariners are struggling again. I was reading something about that. They're struggling with all sorts of spin. The batters are, so that's something to watch for.
So you mentioned guys you're worried about. Do you worry about someone like Bailey Ober at all coming off a complete debacle of an outing today, or just one of those things that it just happened in the first outing? And what are you going to do?
I think you're whistling in the dark if you're not worried, but you're still playing him, but you're worried.
I agree. Who does he face this week? I'm looking here. He
Cleveland.
faces. He faces Cleveland on next Sunday. So that's you got to throw that at home.
5-game week.
Yeah, that's a long week to wait till another Bailey Ober start after getting an inning in the 3rd out of him today. But I agree. I think you got to throw him back out there.
Yep, you got to throw him back out there and just get on the bike. I mean, what else are you going to do if this early in the season? You just roll with it and
I mean, if it happened in July, it would suck. But we'd be like, it's too bad. Ober's had a great start to the year, and he had that bad outing. But if it was the first start, it really, really hurts. It stings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tanner Bybee looked terrible on Saturday. I'm writing that one. That's another one I'm going to just keep rolling with there, but not happy about it.
You count that like good outing against the A's and a win. You kind of count that in your head, and you're like, oh, not so much. So, and then I had Toby in my head a couple weeks ago tell me how much he doesn't like Tanner Bybee. So now I'm a little bit worried.
I think he said he is vastly overdrafted, I believe was the phrase, which doesn't mean he's terrible, but
no. but maybe not what we want at that price. So there's a lot of guys this week that their second start will be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, when your first starter is Justin Steele and your second starter is Tanner Bybee, it's not a good start to the week.
Luckily, we've only played 1.5 week, and we've got like 26 weeks left. So I think it's a long ways to go. Where it's
started the week with 1 win, I ended the week with 1 win.
Oh, that's true. You did. That's right.
I bought a win with Daniel Hudson, and he was my best pitcher for the week.
I think we joked about it in the car ride to Vegas too. Like, what if you get a save out of him in the first weekend too? And there it was. So yeah. Cool. Well, I think I think we're kind of covered everything. A lot to talk about, but we've only had a series to go. We've got the first full week of the season this week. Anything else in your mind, Jeff, before we jump out of here and wrap this one up?
Day games, set your lineups early.
Excellent call, because I probably would have forgot that if you had not said that, even though we just talked about it about 45 minutes ago. I tend to forget that, but at least they're like at 11 and not like 9:30 in the morning. So that's good. Pacific time will be okay there. But want to thank everybody for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. As always, appreciate you sticking with us here with a little bit of a later start. We're just a holiday late start here, so we appreciate that. A lot of comments in the chat. We really do appreciate those. It's always fun to see everybody in the chat and chatting baseball. It's a great time of year, Jeff. I love we got college basketball tournament. We got NBA playoffs starting soon. We got baseball starting up. It's a really fun time of year.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait. Can't wait for this full season. Having so much fun. Looking forward to some good outings leavening out the bad.
Yeah, and they will, and we had some great outings, and some of those guys will get lit up in the second start. So it'll come around. It's a long season, a really fun one. I'm looking forward to chatting about it all year. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Looking at my phone here, looks like it's going to be April 7th next week. It can't be, we're in April, so we'll be back at you next Sunday. I think we're both here, so look forward to it, and hope everybody's a really good week. Good for first full week of the season. Back at you next Sunday. Take care.